How you doing? I hope this video finds you well. I wanted to run down this video about Dark Side of the Moon that's been on my mind to make. I made a video a couple weeks ago about Rocket Man and how it related to Dark Side of the Moon. And I never did touch on the things I want to talk about on Dark Side of the Moon. Um, what makes Dark Side of the Moon so captivating, and why Dark Side of the Moon is a whole song within itself. It has a structure within it that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. Actually, I've never heard anybody talk about it actually. And I've played with dozens of musicians and definitely better than Pink Floyd. But what makes Dark Side of the Moon so riveting and makes you just continue to listen to it? I've got my cheat sheets up over here, so I kind of glance at what I'm doing here. I'm by no means an expert on music theory. I don't know terms as well as others. There's probably a reason for all this, and I'm sure somebody way more advanced. I just want to put out a video to anybody young that's watching this and into music, and maybe loves playing Floyd, and just just exploring music and maybe find out what's going on. But um, if you listen to the wall, at the end of the wall, there's outside the wall, you hear the trumpet playing and things like that. And if you listen to the beginning of the wall, you hear it. The same thing before In the Flesh starts. And in the beginning of the album, it says, "Where we came in." And at the end of the album, it says, "Isn't this where?" And it cuts off. So if you hear it on the wall, you can definitely hear this continuity going on with the wall, an infinite loop. So if you put them both together, it says, "Isn't this where we came in?" And on Dark Side of the Moon, you hear the heartbeat at the beginning and a heartbeat at the end. Wish You Were Here starts with Shine On Your Crazy Diamond. It ends with Shine On Your Crazy Diamond. Animals ends with Pigs on the Wing Part 1, and it's got Pigs on the Wing Part 2. There's this continuity within Pink Floyd's albums, but nothing comes close to Dark Side of the Moon. I had mentioned earlier in that other video about Miles Davis with Some Kind of Blue. It seems Miles Davis was into modal jazz. He started bringing about modal jazz to emphasize these different note structures that are going on within music instead of so much chords. But the basic structure of jazz is a 2-5-1. And what Dark Side of the Moon is doing is it's building the whole. Dark Side of the Moon is not just a song. You can't just take a song from Dark Side of the Moon and listen to it. Other than Money, which does not quite fit the pattern, but it does. It's just a little different. But the whole album in itself is a song, and it leaves you captivated because of something called resolution. The album is never resolved until the end, and this buildup of resolution. And I just want to make a video about this on what I've seen with Dark Side of the Moon and why it still appeals. And when people talk about agnosticism and whether or not there's a spirit and things like that, I point out to you that your soul knows that something is not quite resolved yet, that there's still more to be done. And it doesn't matter, this is universal and can't be explained. And that's what Dark Side of the Moon works off of. I'd seen a video about how Dark Side of the Moon, or I saw a post at the beginning of AOL about how Dark Side of the Moon and The Wizard of Oz went together. I heard this when I was a kid, and so I got the album, and I had the album on CD, and I went and got Wizard of Oz and put it on there, and sure enough it is. It took David Gilmour about 10 years before he finally admitted that they had did something with Dark Side of the Moon. So those, and Wizard of Oz, they had gone together with scenes. So there was more on this album than people think. And so I saw these patterns that I thought, well, maybe it's just patterns that I'm seeing that don't really mean anything. And over time, I found that it does mean something. The more I got into jazz, the more I started learning about jazz. And I'm just going to go through this and quickly show you what this album is doing. This album starts out, a lot of people get this chord wrong. I've seen it for years wrong on this. It starts out in an E minor ninth. And the E minor ninth has F sharp in it. This is very strange itself, but it starts out on a minor. A minor in itself is unresolved, but a minor can be transposed to another minor. And the minors fit well together when we're going from one minor to another minor, because you're kind of hanging there. You're not resolving anything. Now, I had said in that video about Rocket Man that E minor happens to be the 2 of D. So you got, I think my guitar's out of tune. A little bit, but tune that up a little bit. Sorry about that. Which is jazz. Okay, so E minor is the 2 of D. So we're starting out on a 2. Minor second. And what's so strange about this is it's got the 9th, which is F sharp. So you go, right there is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's E minor. 9 is the same as F sharp. So he's throwing this in there, and he's telecasting to you something very subtle, that you don't pick up on until later. And he's going to capitalize off that F sharp. But he starts out with that, and then he goes to A seventh, which is the 2 of D, or the 5 of D minor, or D major. I'm making a lot of mistakes. Sorry, I've been working a lot. I told you I wasn't an expert at this. I can just see it in my head. So if you know jazz, you know what I'm talking about. So you're going E minor, A, back to D. That's the 2, 5, 1. So they're going to the minor second, and they're going to the 5, major 7th. So, and then they go to an E minor 7th. Now it's strange about this. They're telecasting something else to you. But they don't stay on it. They go back to that E minor 9th. Okay, now the E minor 9th, the chorus comes in, it's C major 7th, which is a 6th of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C. C is the minor 6th in E minor. Now the strange thing about 6th chords is that one of the first songs, one of the most popular jazz songs of all time, the most recorded song was Summertime. It was made by George Gershwin when opera was ending and vaudeville had not yet begun. They had these operettas and they had these stories where Gershwin went, he was from New York City, he's a classically trained musician. He goes down south to make a visit to Florida, and he stops in this church. It's an old black church in South Carolina, and he listens to this music that's coming around, this gospel music. It just blew him away. You know, here he was, this talented, trained musician that had been brought up, you know, under strict tutelage, and here's this simple church down there just playing powerful music that was just so much emotion that he was so struck by it that when he went back to New York over the winter, he began to work on a song called Summertime, which is a very famous song. It's one of the most covered songs in the 20th century, made famous by Janis Joplin. It was one of her most famous songs, but everybody has done this song. But it starts on a 6th, an A minor 6th. The thing about minor 6s, they're very dark. They have this tone to it, just an unresolved tone, just very anxious and very dark and brooding. And that's how Dark Side of the Moon starts out. And even the chord changes to the chorus. The C major 7th is a 6th. Okay, so we start out with the E minor, goes to A minor, or A major 7th. Okay, then we end up on on the run, and then it goes to time, and then it starts out again, reminds you of the E. It's reminding you of that E, and then it goes to F sharp, which is the 2nd of E minor. It's the minor 2nd. And if you listen to the album, and I can't play the album because I know YouTube would ban it immediately for copyright. So I can't show you this. So you'd have to know the album. But you build up a tension back and forth between those two. And when he plays that A, you get a sense of relief, a sense of it's finally going somewhere. And then he goes right back into that again. So he's keeping you hanging there on that E. And then the song starts out in F sharp minor. Well, remember what I told you about the E minor ninth. The ninth is F sharp. So he's just kind of telecasted to you. He's already supplanted to you that F sharp minor that's getting ready to come. Now, a lot of people say this song is in A. And the F sharp minor is a relative minor, and it is a relative minor. 3 frets down is a relative minor. Whatever key you're in, you just work 3 frets down. But and I saw this when I was younger and in my teens learning this song, that it's F sharp minor, and a lot of rock and roll uses it. Tuesday's Gone, Bob Seger. There's a ton of songs that work off this relative minor of F sharp minor, and the song is in A. But the thing about it is it started in E. So the A is 1, 2, 3, the fourth of E. So it's going back and forth between these two, and then goes into the E major. But he's started the song on a minor. This song right here is interesting because he again goes to the minor sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For long you live and high you fly, which is D. Now this is the only time you're going to see this chord. This D is in this song yet, and this is where I realized that there is something to this. They are picking the minor sixth to change their choruses to, and he just so happens to be playing D. I don't know if he wants to play D or not, but he's hinting to something to you right here. And it keeps you going in this album, so you want to hear more. So, and then like I said, it goes to that D. So, he's gone from E minor to F sharp minor, and then we go back into the reprise of Home Again, I Like to Be Here When I Can. And he ends that on a B minor, which is, make sure I'm saying the right thing here, it's the fifth. And the thing about this is this is a very popular David Gilmour chord. He uses it in Wish You Were Here. It's an E minor seventh. But, so he plays this B minor, which is the fifth of E minor, the fifth of, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't really matter. But the point of the matter is he hits this B minor, which doesn't quite fit. And if you listen to the album before Great Gig in the Sky, it's almost diminished sound the way it ends. It doesn't fit in the song. It just leaves you kind of hanging. And then Great Gig in the Sky starts out on that B minor. And there it goes, and it goes into this, and at the part where Claire Torrey comes in and just sings that improv that they took in 1 take, 2 takes, it goes to G minor. For B minor, that just happens to also be the sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He goes into a B minor 7. Again, this is the point I was making on the other video about Rocket Man. You got a minor 7th going to a major 7th. This is the same thing that was going on over here with Breathe. Minor, E minor to A major 7th. F sharp minor to A 7th, back on in time. So now we've got Great Gig in the Sky. It's doing the exact same thing. So, and he goes to B flat and then he goes to F. Now the B flat's interesting because again, he's telecasting something else to you about this album. And then, of course, it goes to Money, which is B minor 7. Now, this song kind of is strange. It's just a 1-4-5. That's all Money is. It just stays in B minor, and the chorus goes into F sharp. F sharp, and then E. So it's basically a 1-4-5. That's why the song is kind of so popular. It's kind of more rock and rolly than the rest of the album. It's got a funky beat to it. Things like that. It's just. But anyway, everybody knows Money. So, but once it hits Great Gig in the Sky and goes to that B minor and goes into Money, it kind of starts to bridge the album. The album is starting to become bridged because there's a note that's being played that's very subtle in those chords. And it has everything to do with this album. And it's what this album is all about and what this album is building up to. And we start to get into it after the end of Money. We come into Us and Them. And for the first time, you hear what this album is about. Now, a lot of people, I see people play it like that on YouTube, and it's not the way I ever learned to play it. It's a D sus2. He's playing with an open E. The E is what started out the whole album. So he's blended his D and his E together, but here comes D. This is the first song that's in D. And this is what you've been waiting for the whole album with Us and Them. And they emphasize this after Us and Them. And Us and Them also goes to, the chorus is B minor. Forward he cried, which happens to be the 6th of D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B. So he's playing again. The chorus goes to the 6th. Every single chorus, except so far Reprise has gone to the 5th. They all go to the 6th, and Money is different. So they're all, each one of these choruses are going to the 6th, which is emphasizing as a whole. The whole tone of Dark Side of the Moon is this dark type of brooding. And that's exactly what the next song goes into with Any Color You Like. It goes to D minor 7. And it stays. It just vamps on that D minor. He throws in a G. The interesting thing about that is they start playing these chromatics. So now we're vamping on D, but we're in D minor. And then finally we come to Brain Damage. D, flat out D major. And that's why Brain Damage and Eclipse go together. And this one goes to the 4th. And if the cloud bursts thunder in your ear. So that's a little bit different. He's going to the 4, but he was just doing that in Any Color You Like. He was keep vamping on that 4. But again, the song finally goes to D, and then when it goes into Eclipse, it's the same thing. But the end of Eclipse is on a B flat major 7. Sun is eclipsed by the moon, which it's a minor sixth. B major or B flat for D would be a minor sixth. Because there's the sixth was B. We just went over that with us and them. So the flattened one would be a minor sixth. So again, he ends on the minor sixth. Now I tried, the reason why I waited a while to make this video was I was trying to see if I could find out exactly why is the minor sixth something that Rick Wright keeps going to. And all I could find was summertime. That's all I could think of. Maybe it's because I don't really know that much about jazz, but and I don't. I know nothing about jazz, to be honest with you. But that chord is very dark, and I did do some research and thinking about this before I made this video. I wanted to make this video a couple weeks ago, and I just thought I'd sit and wait and see if I could find something on why he keep going to the sixth and keep going to the sixth. And I even looked it up and tried to find information about this, and all I could find was there is a tension. There's a 5 limit going on when you get deep into music theory about the odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 in scales, and it is in a minor sixth. Does fit that scale. So we got some things going on with these minors, but he's building up the minor. A minor has to be resolved. So as I told you, you have these minors, they build up the tension throughout the whole album. So you finally end in D. So what Dark Side of the Moon is it's a 2-5-1 in jazz. It's a jazz song. That's all the album is. And it's kind of mind-boggling to think that that's exactly what is going on, and the way Rick Wright and David Gilmour came together to, it was mainly Rick Wright, because I just think Rick Wright was Pink Floyd, and Rick Wright was deeply into jazz. And I had made the video about Rocket Man. I decided to read a little bit about this to see if maybe I was off base or saying the wrong thing. And no, actually Rick Wright used some kind of blue as the focus point for Dark Side of the Moon's chords, the beginning of it. So it does relate, and it's what is going on with this album. And it's starting you off on a minor second, and then it's going to a major fifth, but it's never resolving back to the one. It's never going back to that, which you can just tell. It doesn't matter what you are, your heart and your mind, everything knows that D needs to be in there. And they're denying you that D throughout this whole album, up until, like I said, it's in time. It just happens to be the minor sixth in F sharp minor. That's the minor sixth. It just happens to be hitting it. So think about that when you listen to the album. And that's why you can't just take one part of Dark Side of the Moon and say, well, this song or this, that. It's not meant to be heard as just a song. It's meant to be one song, and it's one long song that's waiting for you to resolve it. And that's why it's circular, because it makes you go back to the beginning. It's denying that resolution until the end that ends in this crescendo of Brain Damage and Eclipse. That's why they go together. You'll hear them on the radio together. People play them together because it's emphasizing that D that you have been waiting the whole album to listen to, and it just blares out. And Any Color You Like was starting to it's in a minor, so it's not quite there yet. It's not quite giving you that resolution that you're wanting to hear. So I thought I'd just make this video because, like I said, I just never heard anybody talk about this, and I'd mentioned this to people that, you know, were playing that it's like they're playing two chords and they're changing the keys and they're starting a minor and they're going to a major fifth. So it's a minor second major fifth. No, 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 that's not what it is. It's got this chorus and stuff in it. Well, the chorus is always a minor sixth, pretty much, because there's my cheat sheet, and I can go through it, and I've even got the chords up here, which half of those are wrong for some reason. Nobody gets the right chords listed. Like maybe it's got something to do with copyright. I don't know, but that was the one that always struck me. Is how it opens up, and he's playing at F sharp. So I knew there was something up with this, and looking at the minor six, like I can't be just seeing something here. They're doing something, and especially with the Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz. Yes, there was a lot of effort that went put in this album, and the famous story about Claire Torrey coming out with a Great Gig in the Sky, and she just goes in there and belts it out. I saw an interview with her where Roger Waters says that was probably just one of the biggest, luckiest mistakes that ever happened in the history of music. Was to her to come into that studio and just come out in one take and do the beginning and then the middle and another take and then start out at the end and then quit. So it was 3 takes. This lady comes in and does this on Great Gig in the Sky. And the thing about Great Gig in the Sky is it bridges. That B minor has the D in it, which is the same thing. So it's giving you some kind of hint, but not quite enough. That's different. So you hear the difference. So it's just hinting to you, and it's making you listen to another song. And this continuity within the album is absolutely amazing. It's a masterpiece. The only thing I know better than is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I can't think of anything else that comes even close to those 2 achievements in music. And it was just that's so simple. And that was my other video about this. If you play music, it's just their simplicity that they're using to just tantalize you into listening to again more, and why that album in itself is a masterpiece, and it's meant to be listened to the whole way through, not just one song. Money is unusual with, and they say B minor 7. I always played in B. Gilmore I thought played in B, and then it goes to F sharp minor. And it's a blues. That's what it is, 1/4/5 blues. So that's why that song stands out and it can't be played on the radio. But that B that it starts out is bridging you from that E, F sharp minor, B, eventually to the end, the resolution. And once you're done, you're just so blown away, you kind of want to go back and turn it back on to the beginning to hear that chord again. And to me, I think that's just absolutely amazing that these musicians came together and do that, and that's why the album still stands and will always stand. But I'm glad to get this video out of the way because I really needed to. I've been thinking about it a while. There's probably more to add to it, but I just hope you study the album and listen to it and maybe learn a little bit about this. And thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a blessed night. All right, bye.